Your task in class continues to be a written response to answer the question, what's the dark side of emotional intelligence? Where you're trying to find 4 quotes from an article about emotional intelligence and the harms that it can cause, and share what those quotes are and interpret them in your own words. You're trying to write 300 to 400 words, but don't get obsessed with that word count, because depending on what kind of quotes you use, you may have more or less than others. If this is Mr. Kello's assignment, and he's looking through this article to try to find the negatives of emotional intelligence, then he's going to need that, because what else is he going to write about? He's not making it up himself. Number 5, paragraph 5, has the main idea, the overall idea. So I suggest everyone start with being able to answer that question with the evidence in paragraph 5. What is the biggest harm? 6, 7, 8, and 9, as well as paragraphs 10 and 11, are the only other places to look for those 11 quotes that will tell you something negative about emotional intelligence. If Mr. Kello really wants to break it down in a simple form, he has to give a quote, tell what it means, and he has to do that 4 times. We could call these paragraphs, I'm going to call them sections. Okay. In addition to this, he has to introduce it by telling what his question is, the article title, and then when he gets to the end, he needs to restate in a closing what that overall idea was. Now, let's take a look at this template, which has been put in place to help you, but it seems like many of you have been confused as far as what good this could actually do. I wrote an article that's meant to be a model to follow, which means that you can follow the structure and the way it's put together, but obviously I'm not giving you the written response. And so if this was your article, you'd have to change what the article was. The article, the dark side of emotional. Okay, you can keep my structure, you can reword it. Raises the question, what are the benefits of emotional intelligence? Except you're writing about what the negatives are. This is a good example of how you clarify where your work comes from and what article you're focused on. It's a controlling idea, that's what they call it in your AIR assessment, to kind of point out clarity overall as far as what you're writing about. Continue on. The overall idea and answer to this question is, this is where you have to do your first bit of reading work, which is, what is the overall answer to this question? In this case, you're going to need to look at paragraph 5. In paragraph 5, they give you the overall big harm, and the rest of the paragraphs give specific examples of that. As you continue on, this template, the one that's out in the room and on the desk, is supposed to show you how to put your quotes in. You don't drop quotes in when you talk about them. You do have to put in a phrase. I like the phrase according to. I like Gibbs writes, but it's whoever your author is. So Adam Grant is your author. I have this here just so you have notes over how to lead into a quotation, where to put those quotation marks, and where to put those page numbers. So you're still doing that kind of simple task of give a quote, tell what it means, give a quote, tell what it means, except that you're actually building a bridge in writing to introduce the idea, introduce the quote, close out of the quote, and then move into your own interpretation. So as you can see, the pattern that you're going to be following is give a quote. Like here, I give Gibb writes, and I went ahead and I put the detail that I was able to find in my article about what I wanted to say about emotional intelligence. In my case, it's more about the positives. Okay. So there's my quote. Right after, and in this case, look, I've only done one paragraph. I have to make sure that I'm explaining everything that's in this quote. I can't just say something about anger increasing its power. I have to make sure I also talk about the body needing a chance to process it. So if you're going to use a quote, you have to deal with the whole quote. And if you're just posting little teeny tiny quotes, that's why you don't really have the length and the detail that you need, because you're not pulling enough to talk about. You're not limited to 4 quotes. You could have 5, you could have 6, but remember to follow that pattern. Introduce, give the article title and the overall idea. A quote, what does it mean? Then you hit enter, go ahead and start. Don't forget that tab button to indent. Give a quote, tell what it means. Give a quote, tell what it means. Give a quote, tell what it means. So that if you're struggling, at the very least, you should be following the notes for how to put a quote in, and then right after, putting it in your own words. Remember that you can hit both buttons on your mouse to access the defining. This will give you a place to look for synonyms. So if there's something in the reading you don't understand vocabulary-wise, or if you're trying to put it in your own words and you don't know a word, that you can use this. Ultimately, by the end of the year, we'd like to see you be able to write a sample response that would be like this. You have to understand that for your AIR assessment at the end of the year, you have to write 2 of these responses, and really you get about an hour a piece, and maybe even a little less than that as well. So it's very important to go in and be aggressive, to look for that evidence very quickly, start to work it through your brain as far as what does it mean, and then begin to state it back. Good luck. You need to start somewhere. So if there's nothing else that you can do, you need to find your quotes about the dark side of emotional intelligence from your article. Remember, last time, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Each one of those has a quote. Find the negative. What's the negative? Put it in, explain it. Good luck.